Speaking of which, we have our crappy culture. So Campus Reform does these great videos. They're an organization. They go on campuses and they ask people questions. Here is Campus Reform going on NYU, one of the better schools in the country, theoretically. And I recognize all these streets. These are my home streets. But they're going on NYU and asking students whether or not it was true that the State of the Union speech, Trump's State of the Union speech, was racist. Now, of course, we know that Trump hasn't made his State of the Union speech yet. So he's asking them whether the speech that he hasn't made yet was racist.
Some people were saying that it was the most racist State of the Union that's ever happened. What was your reaction to everything that was said?
I didn't watch it because I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Quite racist at the very least, if not up there with most racist.
Yeah. Wow. It's already quickly climbing the scale. Some of the people said today that they thought his immigration stance and that he outlined last night was especially hateful.
Very offensive.
What do you think of it?
It's something that I wouldn't have expected to happen in like our lifetime.
It's offensive. It is crazy, but I'm not shocked by it, by what he's done in the past. So
pretty ugly. I believe what I'm hearing about his rough nature and the hate that he probably said.
You know, this is the thing. We always hear these polls of young people and what do millennials think? And they always assume basically that they're going to travel in a straight line. They're not going to change. They're not going to learn anything. And right now, millennials hate Donald Trump. They really think he's terrible because they catch glimpses of him on TV and he's a roughneck and he says all this stuff and they quote it out of context. But this is the reason why information and art and all, you know, there's a movie out now, The Post, by Steven Spielberg, and I tell you up front that I have not seen this movie and I'm not criticizing it, but as I understand it, it is the Washington Post's struggle to print the Pentagon Papers against the Nixon administration's attempt to stop them, and it makes Nixon the evildoer. And people still think that Nixon was responsible for the Vietnam War. What the Pentagon Papers showed was that John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson had lied to people consistently about how much involvement we had in the Vietnam War, and it really was JFK and LBJ who got us into the war, and Nixon who stopped it. It was Nixon who stopped the war, who ended the war. And so when you have John Kerry used to go, oh, this is Nixon's war, they're just lying. And they lie in their movies because they know that this kid at NYU is going to sit up one night, late at night, and is going to see the Post, and that's all he or she is ever going to know about what happened in history. And we don't do it. We think we can come in at the last minute and explain to everybody and point to charts and tell them the facts, but they've already got Jay-Z's music in their head. They've already got Steven Spielberg's movie on their screen. They've already got these leftist professors teaching these kids that a speech has been terrible when a speech hasn't even taken place yet. You know, it does ultimately, we win these battles, but ultimately the war is fought in the culture. And I know I say this all the time. I know I hammer it home, but I hammer it home because it really does matter. And one day it comes back and it bites you and you wind up with a president like Barack Obama. And you sit there and say, how can we have a president who hates our country? Well, because they created Obama in our schools, in our movies, in our news media before he existed as a real human being. So when people saw him, they didn't really see him. They saw an image of who he was supposed to be, who he was pretending to be. All right, well, back tomorrow. We'll find out maybe more about this FBI thing and talk about that. Also, the State of the Union is tomorrow, and Ben and Knowles and I will be, and the God King of the Daily Wire himself, Jeremy Boring, will descend on a wire that we keep at the Daily Wire for specifically that purpose, so he can descend into our conversations from time to time. We'll be here all day tomorrow, starting with Ben, me, Knowles, and then the State of the Union. I'll talk to you then. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. The Andrew Klavan Show is produced by Robert Sterling. Executive producer, Jeremy Boring. Senior producer, Jonathan Hay. Our supervising producer is Mathis Glover. Technical producer, Austin Stevens. Edited by Alex Zingaro. Audio is mixed by Mike Cormina. Hair and makeup is by Jesua Alvera. And our animations are by Cynthia Angulo and Jacob Jackson. The Andrew Klavan Show is a Daily Wire Forward Publishing production. Copyright Forward Publishing 2018.